Hello and welcome to today's Tidings. I'm your host, Joyce Tumia. Today we are going to talk about autism and in particular the Giant Steps organization, which is located in Lisle, Illinois. With me to talk about it are Jenny Fulton, who is the Events and Volunteer Coordinator, and Dan Dalking, the Director of Advancement. So, who would like to start by sharing some background information? Jenny, how about you?
Sure. My name is Jenny Fulton, and I'm the Events and Volunteer Coordinator at Giant Steps. I've been with the organization 2 years come December, and since I graduated college in 2006, I've worked in the nonprofit area, working for various nonprofits, and at Giant Steps, I oversee all of their events, so fundraising events and community events that we have throughout the year, and then also implement volunteers into our school as well as our events that we do throughout the year.
Okay, very impressive, very impressive. Okay, and Dan?
Yes, I'm the Director of Advancement at Giant Steps, so my role is to oversee our fundraising department. I've also been with Giant Steps a little over 2 years, and I'm a social worker I have a master's in social work by education, and I've worked with children and adolescents pretty much my whole career since I was 19. And after I got my MSW, I went into fundraising, and I've been a grant writer for about the past 10 years, and now I'm with Giant Steps, and it's just a great organization to be with.
Okay, wonderful. And we are going to talk about the organization and when it was founded and all of the different wonderful things it does. But before we get to that, we need to discuss the nature of autism itself. I, for one, know that for the longest time I thought a child being autistic meant that the child was wrapped in his or her own world and really didn't talk much at all or whatever. In fact, there's some television program with Kiefer Sutherland, I can't think of the name. Okay, yeah. And the child who plays his son, or the son's character, is similar to what I had thought autism was. But apparently there's a whole range or a whole spectrum. So what would you like to tell viewers and me about exactly what autism is and the different spectrum?
Absolutely. Autism, it is a spectrum disorder. Okay. And probably what you hear of is what's called autistic disorder, which is what's known as classic autism, which is probably the most severe form of autism, which you think about a child not being able to communicate, having a lot of difficulty processing sensory information like sights, sounds, not liking touch. And then on the other side of the spectrum is what is known as Asperger's, and there may be slight deficits in communication, kind of social cues, but as far as academic functioning, either at grade level or well above grade level. So even, you know, you think of some of the great minds like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, people make assumptions that maybe they have Asperger's or they have undiagnosed Asperger's. So that's kind of the two sides, and then in between you have other disorders like pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified, rest disorder, and they all have varying degrees of deficits like social interaction and difficulty communicating and picking up on social cues and anxiety. Other symptoms related are anxiety and depression and obsessive compulsive disorder. So those are all kind of the symptoms along this spectrum.
Okay, now a lot of this sounds behavioral, emotional, but Rett disorder in particular seems to have more physical characteristics from what I was reading. That involves something about the head not continuing to grow, for instance. Right. And perhaps retardation is a factor in a lot of these cases.
Yeah, and autism is a neurological disorder. So while individuals with autism do have issues that you would consider maybe behavioral disorder, it's actually neurological. So it's really more with how the connectivity in the brain is affected. A lot of the cause still really isn't well understood, but it is diagnosed as it is considered a neurologic disorder.
Okay. And I happen to know someone who told me, I don't know him very well, or maybe I would have known this already, but he told me that he is autistic and that he was interviewed for a program once because he was so high functioning that he was an example of companies becoming savvy enough to take advantage of the particular focus that some of the high-end autistic people can have, and actually putting that to good use. So he did one thing at his job, and it involved computers, but he did one thing at his job and did it well, and did it really well, and that particular company hired quite a few other people like that to take advantage of that kind of focus. So is this kind of a breakthrough that more people are becoming aware of the fact that there is potential there, and if it is channeled the right way, it can be useful, very useful for the autistic people as well as society?
Yeah, I mean, I think it varies obviously on the individual, but many individuals with autism are extremely detail-oriented and like rote task and routine. And Walgreens is actually a leader kind of in this area, and they have a manufacturing facility down in North Carolina, and they employ people with all different kinds of disabilities, but they actually have a young man there who has autism. He may have autism or Asperger's, and he's actually their highest performer. He's the quickest at putting boxes together because he just really enjoys that level of detail and routine, and he actually he sets the record for how well someone can do that job, disability or no disability. And you're right, there are examples where people just have amazing skills and abilities because of autism. You know, they don't see autism as a disability; they see it as an ability. You know, it's a strength. So I think if we all kind of view it that way, it's, you know, you look at it in a different way, you can see that people with autism bring a whole, I guess, another flavor to life that we can really appreciate.
I like the way you put that. I like the way you put that. Wonderful. Okay. Is there anything else about the definition of autism that we should cover a little bit more? I don't know, did we talk enough about Asperger's compared to the very withdrawn person? What particularly is Asperger's?
Well, Asperger's is just a more mild form of autism, and oftentimes people with Asperger's don't have the communication delays or deficits that someone with autistic disorder might have.
Okay.
And like I said, they can be very high functioning, you know, have jobs and be very inventive and creative, and so I think maybe that would be one of the key distinguishing factors.
Okay. It's good to know that there is such a range, and that, you know, the different levels have different challenges, but these challenges can be met.
Absolutely.
Okay. Then I guess we're ready to talk about the Giant Steps organization. And I understand that you have a lovely 3-minute video that we can play here for our audience, and that will do a wonderful job of introducing it. So we will do that right now. We are going to watch a 3-minute video on the Giant Steps organization and be right back. Well, that was very interesting. So we just watched the video, and that was very interesting. It was very, very nice.
Thank you.
So is there any particular comment you want to make about it, or shall we just go on and discuss? Even if we repeat some of the information that was in the video, repetition is good. So.
I mean, I think I'd just like to point out,
Okay.
As you got to see in the video, our kids are just so special, and they're, we try to create a really warm and happy environment and an opportunity for our kids to learn and grow. And it's a very you saw kids riding around on rollerblades and scooters and things you're not going to see in a typical school. But that's just the movement piece is so important for how our kids learn. And I think that's one of the advantages of our program and why our students can really thrive.
Okay. Now let's go back and go over again some of the history of the organization itself. It's located in Lisle. How long has it been in Lisle? What information like that can you share?
We've been in Lisle since September of 2009 when we moved into our new facility. We moved from a much smaller building in Burbridge that was only about 17,000 square feet, and now we're in 72,000 square feet. So we've, over the past 3 years, we've really grown. We've grown from having 35 students to now almost 150 students.
Wow.
And it's because the need is out there. We're still not completely meeting the need. There's a lot of other great programs out there too, but the need is definitely growing. We started 16 years ago. We actually started a group of families that had children with autism, started an organization. Deborah Nauman was our founder, and she's still on our board. Christine Thornton-Wiener is our chairman of our board, and Michael Romano is the president of our board, and our executive director is Bridget O'Connor.
Okay, wonderful.
And we've been in our new facility for 3 years. It's amazing, and Lisle's taken us in. They've been great neighbors, and the community's really supported us there.
Okay, so Jenny, you were never at the other facility?
No.
Okay, you've just been at this one. And your experience with autism in the background, refresh my memory. We went over that a little bit, but it's...
I actually didn't have any experience with autism in the past. I worked for various nonprofits, none of them working with kids with autism. So my start in December of 2009 was pretty fresh. Had no idea what it looked like. I kind of, in my mind, had an idea of what it was, more of like the Asperger side of it, so like higher functioning, but like Dan was saying, our students are very unique and we have a really wide range of students, some lower functioning, some higher functioning, and it was interesting to me just to see that there were so many different types of autism and that there were so many, all of our students are unique individuals and there's not one student that looks like the other, that acts like the other, that, so it was just really eye-opening to me just to see that there was such a broad range.
Okay. Now, is this something that is being diagnosed more than in the past, or are there actually, do you think, more incidences of it that just went on, I don't know, like what are the odds of someone having a child with Asperger's? Do you have information like that? If you don't, we can obviously look it up, go to a website or something like that.
The odds of having a child with autism is 1 in 88. Which is, that's a pretty new statistic, I think it was as little as 10 years ago is 1 in 1,000. So you can see that it's dramatically increased. And I think it is probably diagnosed more. There's some truth to that. But I think there's also some evidence that there may be some other genetic and even environmental factors at play, so that the incidence is actually increasing as well. But 1 in 88 is pretty significant.
Very
and
significant.
4 times more likely for boys.
Really?
And there is some evidence when there's a set of twins that it's more likely, I think it's about 5% higher likelihood that if one twin has autism, the other twin will have autism. So there definitely seems to be some genetic component there.
Is that even when they are fraternal twins and not identical? Or does it matter?
I'm not sure on that. That's a good question. We could look into that. I'm not sure on that one.
I mean, it would seem to be higher, obviously, if they were identical twins, because they would have the same genes exactly.
Right.
But
I know we do have, at our school, we have 2 sets of identical twins.
Okay. So I imagine a lot of research is being done on autism, especially with the probability of someone having a child with autism being 1 in 88. Good grief. And especially when it's a whole range, it's not just a narrow definition here. I mean, there are quite a lot of people who might fit in one of those categories.
There is a great deal of research, a lot into the cause, and there's a lot of studies looking at the brain development, and I think they've identified a gene that is predisposed to causing autism, and but there's still a lot that isn't understood, and hopefully in the years to come we'll learn more and be able to diagnose earlier and treat earlier, and that's the key. There is no cure for autism. If you're diagnosed with autism, you're going to have autism your entire life.
Okay, so fundraising is important. Now, the fundraising that you do isn't for it's not for the research, it's for the facility itself in Lisle, right? Okay, and that's still important because you want to give the students there the best care that they can have. What kind of fundraising do you end up doing? What are some of the different?
We do various fundraising events. I can go over the events and then pass it over to Dan for the grants.
Sure.
The events that we do, we have our 5K in October. It's actually October 6th at St. James Farms, and we do a 5K cross-country run and then a 1-mile family walk. And last year we had over 150 participants, and just a really fun day. St. James Farms is absolutely gorgeous.
It is.
All of the money that we raise goes directly to Giant Steps, and the runners and families that participated last year afterwards, we have like a cookout and have games and stuff for kids and that type of thing. So then we also have a auction, which is the Auction for Autism. It's our largest event. This is the 16th year, that actually 16th or 17th?
We are 17th year.
17th year for doing the Auction for Autism, and last year we had it at the Boback Signature Room in Woodridge, and it'll be there again this year on February 23rd.
So is that like a big fancy dinner?
It
and
is.
People dress up and a silent auction as well as live auction?
We do. We have a silent auction, a live auction. We have raffle sales. This year we're going to have Jim Cornelius sing the national anthem there. We have a band. There's dancing. Chet Kopic is our MC. And it's just a really fun night. Last year we raised over $160,000 for the school.
Very nice.
So, and that was net. And it's a really fun event. It's our largest event that we do, and it's probably our signature event, I would say.
Okay.
But yeah, there's more information about that on our website as well.
Okay, wonderful. So those are the main events. Are there any others?
We do. We have community events, and then we also have various fundraising events. We do a jailbreak event in May. We do...
Explain that one. Wait, is that where somebody gets put in not real jail? Real
yeah,
jail?
we had it. It's hosted by Maggiano's, and we do it in May, and we have various volunteers that volunteer to give their put themselves in jail for an hour and fundraise for Giant Steps. So we set the amount at $1,000, and you do what you can. We have some that raise, $500, some that raise $5,000. It just really varies. So that's one of the events. We also we had a rummage sale this past year. And then we do community events. We have a backyard barbecue for our families, and we do also a pancake breakfast for our families.
Okay.
And we also have a golf tournament at Rich Harvest Farms, actually July 26th. And it's kind of like a corporate golf tournament. Navistar is our corporate sponsor for that. We also have a few other sponsors that are in there. Last year we raised over $100,000 for the school. The golf tournament, there's a live auction and a silent auction, as well as golf, and then a cocktail reception afterwards. So.
That is a lot of
We do.
activity.
We do.
Have time to be here today. I hope you have a big team under you.
Yeah, if anything you're interested in, we have an event for you.
I guess, and of all kinds.
Yes.
We're always looking for volunteers.
We are. We always are looking for volunteers to help with the events. The auction, we have probably 30 volunteers that help with the event. The 5K, we have probably 30 volunteers that help with the event. Volunteers play a key role in the success of our event. So we're always looking for volunteers for our events and then our school as well. So
wonderful. Okay. Well, hopefully people will look at the contact information
absolutely.
in the credits and call and volunteer. That'd be great.
That would be great.
Okay. And Dan, you're going to talk a little bit about the grant writing and maybe any other of the programs that we haven't really gone into that we want to cover.
Sure. Yeah. We of our fundraising support, we probably have about a third of our support come from foundations, family foundations, and other community foundations and other corporate foundations in the area, and about a third of our revenue, our fundraising revenue, comes from our events, and about a third comes from individual donations and corporate donations. So that's kind of how it gets broken out. But we seek funding for program specific. For example, we had a program that allowed us to buy flip cams that our therapists could use and then videotape their interventions with our students, and then the parents could watch it online, because what happens at home doesn't always happen, or what happens in the school, it works so well in the school, doesn't always happen at home, so our parents were able to watch that. And then we also have a lot of foundations that just support our general operations and give to us very generously each year. So that is kind of how our grants work. We write very specific program grants, and kind of our focus right now is our new adult program. We just have recently launched an adult program called The Canopy, and it's young adults right now aged over 22. So our day school is therapeutic day school is students age 5 through 22, and then at the age of 22, funding in the state of Illinois stops. So the public school districts that have been paying for them to come to Giant Steps, that funding's no longer there. But these young adults still need help, and they still need job training and life enrichment training and recreational opportunities. So we started Canopy, and we have a few young adults already, and we're looking to add more to our program, but we're really excited about it, and we know it's a need, and we keep hearing in the community, and we're not the only organization that's aware of it. We're all really trying to brainstorm and figure out, because we have kind of a wave of young adults coming through our school system that are going to need services. And the funding isn't quite there yet, and we're working on that. So we've been really busy writing grants, and we have a benefit concert coming up in August.
August 25th.
August 25th. That we're really also excited about, and the proceeds of that will go towards the adult program.
Okay, wonderful. So you mentioned that starting at 22, the adults with autism can participate. How far up does it go age-wise? I mean, could you have 80-year-olds in there?
You could. Our program right now, as the way as we currently have it set up, we're focusing more on the young adults, probably early 20s to late 20s. We hope to expand. We're kind of taking baby steps as we're building our model and making sure it meets the needs. And I think that's one of the difficult things about working with this population, is that every individual has such a different need and a different program. So with our day school, where we have 150 students, we talk about running 150 different programs, because each student really needs a different program. So as we develop our adult program and are able to tailor it to meet the needs of those specific adults, whether it be vocational training or leisure and rec or community outing type experiences, we'll be able to kind of continue to grow and staff it and have the resources so we can serve a larger age population as well.
Which would be wonderful, because I'm thinking if all of these services are relatively new or have expanded, then there are probably a lot of people who were too young or have already passed the age where they would have been able to participate in this kind of thing, or the school.
Absolutely.
Adults already out there for whom these services were not available when they were younger. And
many of them are at home with their own parents and their aging parents, and it's a difficult situation. You're right.
Yeah. Okay. So, is medication used on these students a lot? Any medication other than physical needs? I mean, for behavioral purposes.
Medication is used, and it's mostly to treat related symptoms of autism. So, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, depression. Mood disorders. So it isn't necessarily, it's not like a magic pill for autism, but it kind of treats related symptoms.
Okay. Okay. Are there other programs that we haven't mentioned that we want to be sure and cover? There's the social emotional, you've mentioned that, development through sensory motor play, individual sessions and social games, community integration activities like Tiger Cubs. Cub Scouts?
That is a very neat program. It's a modified Cub Scouts program that Becky Kaufman, our director of our elementary program, she's also a social worker, she created the program. And it's a really neat program that our kids are able to engage in Tiger Cubs or Cub Scouts just like typical kids. And it's a really neat experience. And the one other program I would like to mention too is our training.
Okay.
It's definitely a focus of our organization is to make to create autism awareness, and we've trained at the United Center, U.S. Cellular Field, Navy Pier. We're going to be at the Field Museum. And the whole idea is that we're trying to create more autism-friendly venues so parents can bring their child, and staff and other parents are aware of the needs of these children.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I remember reading, because I've got notes on it, the bit about the first responders too, that police and paramedics and firemen need to know if they are dealing with an autistic person by the behavior. There isn't going to be a sign around someone's neck or something, and they need to know how to do that appropriately so that someone can indeed cooperate and be saved and not be afraid. This really sounds wonderful. So if people wanted to find out more about it, there's a website.
mygiantsteps.org.
Okay, and they could also probably just put in the keywords and have it come up too if they were Googling it.
Absolutely.
Can people go and visit the campus?
Absolutely. We would love to give them a tour. They can
Okay.
contact myself or Jenny, and we'd be happy to set up a tour and give them let them see what Giant Steps is all about.
Okay, and so the bottom line is there are a lot of people who have one kind of autism or another. There are different definitions of it. It's a whole range. But there are services out there, and Giant Steps is one that has been doing really good work for quite a while and is right here in the neighborhood in Lisle.
That's right.
So people should come out and support it with volunteering and or going to fundraisers and supporting it financially. There is hope out there, and Giant Steps sounds like a wonderful place. Well, thank you both for coming and sharing information on autism itself. I certainly know a lot more than I did. And on Giant Steps. Thank you very much for coming and doing this. I wish you success with your future endeavors in that field. It's wonderful.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Please join me again for future episodes of Today's Tidings.
The odds of a child becoming a professional golfer? 1 in 140,000. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 150.